Thank you. That was a lovely introduction. I appreciate that. Does anyone know what this is? Yeah? What? Yes. And what do we use a singing bowl for? Calm ourselves. What else? Tune attention. Yes. This is going to be quite the trick. Right? Can you hear it? Okay. When you hear it, does your mind go anywhere else but to the sound? Did you think about breakfast? Were you back there? Did you think about your flight tonight? Were you out there? When I think about communication with children, young children, old children, adults, colleagues, spouses, whomever we're in a relationship with, I think about presence because in my mind that is the primary foundation of what creates a wonderful, amazing interaction and ability to really be with oneself and be with someone else. I was thinking about, I have all these notes, and where did I leave them? I think I left them over there. I'm writing furiously as I'm listening to all of you because everything you all say is resonating with me and it's connecting with me. And I went back to my room last night and I'm writing, what am I going to say? What am I going to say to these people? And what I want to start by saying is, it's amazing how much common ground is in this room. And when I keep hearing people talk about hooking our arms together, that we're all looking in the same direction, and wouldn't it be amazing if we could just put our arms together and walk the path together, that really is amazing to me because I think, finally, you see what I see. I'm not alone. And I have felt for a long while that there are very few people who see what we see. And so it's a wonderful feeling to be among so many of you who have the same vision, who are able to see and hear from children. And when I say children, I include our own inner child, as many of you have alluded to, those inner voices. What needs to be done? When I wrote this book called Waking Up, that's not my writing. It's the words in that book are simply translations of what every child that I've interacted with has taught me. And what they've taught me is that parents need to know more. They need to know how to see and hear them. And that's my intention in life and in every daily interaction that I have. I haven't had an opportunity to meet all of you, unfortunately, yet, but hopefully in the next day and a half, because we still have some time here, I will be able to still have some one-on-one interactions with each of you. One of my personal goals, actually two come to mind, is to ensure that every single person that I interact with feels seen and heard in every moment that I interact with them. That is, it sounds easy, actually. Easy, right? I get every moment to do that if I choose that. My other personal goal is to be better at whatever it is I'm thinking about, parenting in the case of a lot of what we're discussing. Be better at that than I was yesterday. If I can just be a little bit better, it might only be this much. I'm improving, and so for that to become something that I'm striving for, What that essentially means is that that's what I'm modeling for my children. That's the person I am. That's who I want to be for my two girls, 12 and 7. I always hesitate because she just turned 7, so I'm used to saying 6. 12 and 7. Do any of you remember the last conversation you had with your child or with a child in your life? Can you remember it? I just want you to take a minute to just remember it. Mine was this morning, right across the way, with my 12-year-old. So I have a preteen, and she's lovely. She really is. I mean that. She's lovely. I look at this board. Yay! And she wasn't happy this morning. Her sister was really in her space. And I could hear it on the phone. So my conversation, I'm going to talk a minute about technology too, because a lot of what you all said yesterday really struck me. I love technology. I think it's an amazing way to connect with kids. And at the same time, I like to shine a light on it for some parents to say, it really can get in the way. In my conversation with my daughter today, it didn't. We tried to FaceTime, couldn't make it work. But I could hear in her voice she was tense about her 7-year-old sister. And so I said to her, what's going on? Nothing. I got the one-word answers. Nothing. Fine. Did you sleep okay? Mm-hmm. After we hung up, very brief conversation, I finished getting ready, and I thought, I have an opportunity to have that go better, just a tiny bit better, right? She still has her whole day. I have my whole day. We have the opportunity to have that go just a tiny bit better. So I called her back, and I just said to her, sweetie, I hope you have a great day. I know your sister's really, kind of getting to you. And I hope that if you need help, you can ask Ashley. She's our sweet, darling nanny who we couldn't live without. And have a nice time with your sister doing whatever it is you guys are going to do today. And she said, okay. And I almost could hear the smile. I could almost hear it in the way she said, okay. And we hung up. And it took literally a second for me to do that. But I walked away feeling better about that interaction than the one we had had before. It's not a sad story. It's a very ordinary moment. And that's what I tend to try to focus on when I talk to parents, because we have ordinary moments all the time that are really opportunities to engage our child, to help them feel seen, to help them feel heard, and to, even more importantly, which I think is tied to being seen and heard, feel that they have something of value to bring to our lives and into the world. When I think about communication, I think about ultimately the space. I think about space. I think about creating space between ourselves and the person we're interacting with, right? That's all we have is space. We have ourselves, the other person, and space between us. And we get to consciously choose what we do with that space. If we slow down enough to be able to consciously choose. Many of you have already shared some of your, what I call bings, right? Kind of the bell dings or bings or pings, and we stop and we hear the sound, and that's where our mind goes, and we are now in the room because we hear the sound. The sound is in the room. Our thoughts are not outside the room. We're now in the room. Our body, our mind, our emotion, right? A few of you have shared moments that you've kind of been binged, right? Not all teenagers are broken. Bing. Wow, that was loud, right? No one listens to me. Bing. You all probably hear them all day long from your children. I think our children are the most wise creatures. And I think they were given mirrors when they were born that they tend to hold up to us. And we don't always want to look inside that. We don't always want to look in the mirror and listen and hear what they're saying to us about ourselves. No one listens to me. Bing, you heard that and you shifted, right? All teenagers aren't broken. You heard that and you shifted. That's what I think communication, really good quality communication is about. Marlene, when you said yesterday that the average amount of quality communication per day is 3 minutes, my first thought was, how sad, of course, right? 3 minutes of quality communication with our children. My second thought was, when we're present with our children, my guess is that within that 3 minutes, that involves the parent being highly present with the child. And how easy would it be for us to move that to 4 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and then 6 minutes, and then 30 minutes, and then 60, and so on and so forth. If every moment we're with them, we are truly with them in the room, our children have a completely different experience of us. And most importantly, they have a completely different experience of relationships, what it feels like to be in a relationship with another person who sees them and hears them. Once you've had that, you don't want any other kind of relationship. You don't want to seek out unhealthy, abusive, challenging relationships. So we have that ability to give our children an amazing gift, and that is the experience of being in a healthy, connected, present relationship. The challenge for us as parents is that we don't always know how. We might know that we want it, we might know that it would help, but we don't know how to do it. Because we're busy and we're running and we're moving and we have things that we have to do, and it's too many things coming at us to be able to stop and slow down and be present and hear the bell in the room and come back into the moment with them. So in some ways we have to create our own beings, right? Rather than always relying on our children to give us those really powerful ones. They said in their introduction, I'm a psychologist, so I walk out into my waiting room every day, several times a day, 8, 9, 10. I have very busy days. But every time I walk out into the waiting room, this is my technology story. Guess what I see? I see a family sitting with their MP3 player. Oh, they don't use those anymore, right? iPods, iPad, phone, Kindle, right? They're all sitting individually in the waiting room. They're all sitting together individually. They're all sitting together separately, right? And instead of it being a family of, say, 3, a child and 2 parents sitting in my waiting room, there's a child, 2 parents, and their technological friends, as I call them. And they all come into my office, and they put them away. And I ask them immediately, I've created this new ritual. It's a little wake-up moment for them. And I say, pull those back out, we need those. And they look at me like, what are you talking about? Why do we need those? Pull those back out, and I take each one and I set them in a different seat in my office. So there are now 7 of us in the room. right? There are 7 of us in the room, and we begin to talk about who in the room do we want to connect with? Do we want to connect with each other? Do we want to connect with them? And when we connect with them, how does that interfere with our ability to connect with one another? It alters their perception, of course, of those gadgets. Doesn't mean they'll never use them again. Of course they will. But they'll think about it differently. I also had a father who sat in my office once who was working on some issues around trying to connect with his daughter better. I think she was 12 or 13 at that time. And I asked him, well, what do you do? How do you try to connect with her? And he said, I wake her up every morning and I try to be nice to her and, I make her breakfast. And I said, well, tell me how you wake her up in the morning. Just tell me the basics. How do you wake her up? Well, I text her and it dings and she texts me back. And I said, are you in the same house? Well, yes, she's down the hallway and I'm in the kitchen. I was flabbergasted. I didn't show that on my face. I said, oh, interesting. Do you think what would happen, what would be different if you actually walked down and she heard your voice? Or you opened the door and she saw your face? Would there be any difference in the way that the morning goes for her or for you? And so he tried it. And he shared with me how amazing it was that she was in a better mood. She didn't have her phone waking her up. She had her dad waking her up. That's what she wanted. That's all she wanted. That's all our children want, right? They want us. The other thing that came from the technology talk was this. It really struck me, and I know it's on some piece of paper in my room, scribbled. Wouldn't it be amazing if our reward that our children earned were our presence in some way, right? Instead of presents, money for apps or the Lego set or all the things that we talked about. I think if we asked children, they would choose that. Well, eventually they would choose that. Maybe not right away because they really want the Lego set. And they've been trying to get the Lego set. But even behind that, I think that they would choose presence. Not, let's go to a movie. Not, let's go to the candy store together. But really being in the room with your child. Can you feel when someone is really present to you? Can you feel it? How can you feel it? What do you feel? Connection, happy. How do you know? How do you know? How do any of you know right now that I'm present to you?
You looked at them.
Absolutely. I'm connecting here. Anything else? Openness. Yes. You said something to me before. You said, oh my goodness, you listened. You heard that. I remembered a story she said. Not perfectly. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm in that camp. We remember, right? We reflect. We notice things. We are, as I said before, all people who have such common ground, and I hope that what we can continue to do together, is shine our light on this as widely as we can, on communication, on technology, on bullying, which we'll talk about tomorrow, and all the things that are important in terms of the life skills that we're trying to teach. Because I think that as we shine the light on all of these things together, if all of our lights are shining, think of how bright that will be. Not just my little light. Hope that I reached, 1,000 parents this year. But all the lights. And what that does is it will be inviting. So as I said, when I think about communication with our children, and really anyone, I think about creating a space that is welcoming and inviting and will allow people to come in, feel seen and heard, right? Parents and teachers and schools and maybe even the government, as we talked about yesterday, will be willing to hear what we all have to share if we allow them to feel seen and heard. That's inviting. That's a sense of safety. And that's us being the kind of people we want our children to be. So if I have one motto, I sort of stole Gandhi's quote and shifted it a little bit, right? Be the change you want to see in your child. And if we could all be that, right? Be exactly who we want our children to be. And help invite the other kinds of people into their life that we want them to be like. Because Marlene, as you said beautifully, I can't be everything to my children either. I have to welcome other people in to help support them and help them learn life skills that perhaps I don't have to give them. I just want to close with one last thought, which is when I talk with parents and educators, whomever it is I'm doing work with, the thing I really try to encourage them to first consider is not, well, their first question to me is always, how can we make this better, right? How can we fix this? You all know this. You hear this constantly. Like, what do I do, right? How do I do it? Please tell me, or you do it for me. And I try to reframe, and actually I try to slow them down a bit and ask a different question first. That question being, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we here for our children? We're here to help them. This is my answer. This isn't everyone's answer. I believe that we're here to help them become good relators. Okay? We're not here to help them just behave well. I think this is part of our common ground. But to relate well, both to themselves and to other people. And it starts with us, and it starts with our ability to be able to do that first and foremost. And a part of that process is also being willing to actually look in that mirror when they hold it up to you, and they say, whatever it is they're about to say, right? Mommy, you don't listen. Mommy, you don't get it. You're not with her all day. Listen when our children hold the mirror up and create a shift. When you're present to them, you can actually hear that. When we're wrapped up in life outside of that moment, when we're wrapped up into our anxieties about the future, or we're wrapped up into our sadness or regret about the past, we can't see and be in the moment with them. Hence the importance of really learning how to become present. Thank you.